In today's video, we're going to take a look at the 4-stop shaft options that Titleist are offering in their new GTS lineup of drivers. All slightly different profiles, slightly different weights. We're going to hit them all, test them, give you some data of the differences between these shafts and maybe one that you might go out and try yourselves. Okay, so the shaft options for the GTS lineup of drivers. So we've got 4 options. I've got 4 options in my hands here. We've got the Mitsubishi Tensai 1K. We've got that in a red, a blue, and a white option. Again, different profiles depending on your delivery to hit certain launch conditions, spin conditions, and how that shaft bends for you as a bend profile through your golf swing. And then the 4th one, we've got the new Project X Titan. So we're going to hit all of those. They're all 45.5 inch in length. They're all stiff flex. There is some different weight differences and some extra options in there, which we'll run through in this video, but we're going to hit all 4 of these today. And for the test, we're going to use the GTS2 Driver. It's a 9 degree. I've got the 11 gram weight in the front, 5 gram at the back. I'm going to put all of these shafts on an A1 setting, which is obviously going to play it more standard in that 9 degree head. So we're going to start off with the Tensai 1K Pro in a red. So this is basically Mitsubishi's most sort of lightest and highest launching shaft that they offer. So typically these brands, as Titleist for instance here, are going to offer a shaft that is a very high launching, high spinning, more of a mid spin, more of a low spin, trying to hit all types of golfers' speeds and obviously deliveries in terms of what they're trying to do with a launch and a spin. Very dependent on how you deliver the golf club, how you load the golf club at the top of your swing, and how sort of the bends that you create in the shaft and how that feels to you. And I think feels a massive aspect as well when it comes to choosing a shaft, what feels right to you. And pretty much you've got to hit shots to actually obviously get that feel, haven't you? So always, my advice as always would be to go and get fitted and try these shafts, see some data, maybe from a TrackMan, and to sort of see exactly how that shaft is performing for you against other options as well. Oh, I've absolutely ripped that. And that is quite a highish ball flight. Launch shot actually at 12, 2.5 spin. That's really good numbers. It did seem to sort of peak high, a little bit higher than maybe what I'm sort of used to. So this one is the red 55 in a stiff. Now they also offer a 45, then they go into a 55 with a few shaft options in that way, and then they also do a 65. So that's your weight categories that you're going to be looking at there. So if you prefer something a little bit heavier, then you've got 65 option. Something lighter, maybe as a slow swing speed player, you might opt for the 45 if you really want something that's a lot softer. Okay, and that has flown very high. So this probably isn't really suited to me and my swing speed here, but you can see I launched that at 15 degrees, spun at 3,100. So a little bit of a slight right shot, not bad by any means, but look at the land angle, it's coming at 47 degrees. That's coming in nearly like a 7-iron descent angle, which is obviously not going to get your release on the ball when it sort of lands. Yeah, and again, you can sort of see that rising a little bit there. That spin's going to be a little bit on the high side, I would sort of say. You can see it sort of rise, yeah, sort of 3,300 on the spin. You can see it just sort of trying to stall a little bit through that flight. So, as I say, the launch characteristics of the Tensai in the red is a little bit more of a higher launch and higher spin. So probably generally aimed at somebody who's got a little bit less speed, trying to get the ball launched, trying to get some spin on it, to keep it in the air, to maximise the carry. Feels very smooth though. It's a very sort of, you can tell it's a lighter shaft. For me, I can tell it's very active. But again, if you're that player who needs that tip to be working from a little bit more, the Tensai Red is a great option. So the 1K carbon has basically got a proprietary carbon fibre inside this particular shaft, which is strengthening it by up to 5 times. So it's giving a really good sort of control, even though it's an active tip. Even on these other blue and the red options as well, you've got that RIP technology in there as well. So really sort of helping to reduce any torque, which is basically twist in the head. So when you miss-center the strike location, obviously the head's going to twist around the shaft. So that torque is trying to minimize that twist as much as possible. Helps to put a bit more energy through the ball and keep obviously a little bit of the miss hits a little bit more accurate. Oh, that's a Healy one, that's off the planet right. So this is the thing when shafts maybe don't quite suit a certain swing type, is you just sometimes get your timing wrong, struggle to then sometimes find the middle of the golf golf centre of the club face, should I say, as consistently as you would do. Yeah, again, that's right off the bottom of the club face, so just not being able to time that as good as I'd like to. I found the fairway, granted. Spins a little bit high, ball speed was back a touch there. Okay, let's move over now into the Tensai Blue. So moving into the 1K Tensai Blue. So this is now a bit more of a mid-launch and mid-spin characteristics. Again, there's different weight options in the blue category. This one I've got is a 55. So there's a 55, there's a 65 option, and then there's also a 75. So again, if you prefer more weight in there, maybe if you're creating a few more bends in that in the swing that you're creating, then maybe that slightly heavier option might be a good one for you. And the weights inside those categories, depending on the flex, will also change a little bit as well. So for example, this is a 55 stiff. The stiff is actually coming in at 58 grams in this particular one. So again, there's some little subtleties of weight inside those brackets as well. So this should feel a little bit more stable than the red. Ooh, let's pull that up the left a little bit. That's come out like a rocket though. Just slightly shut the face, just pulled it a touch. Good controlled spin, and definitely just had that little bit more of a stable feel to it. I could feel that straight away. Yeah, that wasn't perfect on the strike. It was a little bit in the heel. Might just spin up a tiny bit more with that strike. Yeah, a little bit, but a little bit more control. I could feel that stability there just on that slight miss. Didn't get as much of that twisty feel as maybe I got with the red. These are the feels that you're going to see when you start to maybe come into a fitting environment a little bit like this and start to try these shafts and heads and just look at numbers, but also then how that feel to you as a player is always going to be important. It's low in the face, that's going to spin up a bit more. Just peeling a touch to the right. And this is always going to be a good example of looking at strike. There you go, 3,500, nearly 3,600 on that spin. That was really low in the face strike. It's always going to spin it up when we see that, isn't it? So always got to be measuring strike as well when you go into that fitting. That's a better strike. It's flown a little bit higher. Or launched a little bit higher, should I say. Yeah, 12 launch, 2,800 spin. Nice numbers. Again, decent strike, just pulled it up the left a little bit. Okay, so there's some shots. Definitely more of a stable feel that we've just seen in that red, but we'll now move on to the Tensai white. Right, so Tensai 1K now in the white. So this is a lower launching and a low to mid spin characteristic. So typically this is now going to be moving into maybe your stronger players. Players that maybe have a lot of speed and create some big bends in the shaft. So need something with a stiffer profile, which is what this is. This is a lot more stiffer in the tip section now, just to help, again, help that stability for your quicker players. So this is a 65. Again, we've got some different weight categories here. So there's a 65, they do a 75, and they do an 85, which is really heavy for maybe your real strong players. Again, there's some flex options inside of that area as well. So this is a 65 in a stiff. And straight away there, just picking it up and holding it, you can feel there's a bit more weight in that shaft there now from those previous two options. So straight away there, it feels a little bit firm and just picking it and waggling it a little bit. Oh, that struck really good. Definitely feel that more stability through that whole shaft there when you're swinging that, especially at the top of the club as you're transitioning. That wasn't the greatest of strikes, but really held its line there. Again, that stability, can definitely feel that for me. A bit more suited maybe towards my speed, this particular shaft. See, good numbers there from not a greatest of hits. So I think when you look at these shafts, you look at a low launching shaft, we've got mid launch, we've got a high launch, we've got a high spin, mid spin, low spin. Again, we've always got, as I just mentioned before, got to look at strike, because that is going to change things. You know, at the end of the day, I could have that Tensai red high launching shaft, hit it low in the face, and it'll launch low because of the strike. Okay, and vice versa. If it's high in the face, it's going to launch high with potentially this Tensai white, which is a low launching shaft. So you've got to look at your strike location. We know then that's going to affect a little bit of spin as well. So this is where you've got to measure yourself. or you get into a fitter measuring your spin, and then certain shafts could try and reduce that spin if you need to, or try and increase that spin if you need to maximise maybe your distance, as well as keeping an eye on your shot dispersion. Again, that's not perfect, but it's a good flight. You'll take that all day on the golf course. That was a little bit more forward penetrating on this flight. It was a fraction low in the face. Okay, and there's probably a great example of what I've just talked about. I got slightly ahead of that one. I hit that a little bit low in the heel, and that spun at 3,200. Spin's going to go up because of the strike. Okay, there's some hit with the Tensai white. Definitely a more stable feel than was just seen in the previous two. We're now going to move into the final shaft, which is the Titan. So finally moving into the Project X Titan, and it's the black version. This is a new addition for Titleist into their range. We see the Tensai 1K black shaft, which we saw last year in the GT. That's now gone. Titan is replacing that. So this is really for your, again, more aggressive players, the quicker swing speed players, more stability in that mid to tip section here, and a little bit soft in the butt section. So it's not as harsh or as stiff maybe under the handle as you're transitioning, a little bit smoother, but you've got all that stability through the bottom end of the golf shaft through impact to, again, help to control sort of twists and also get that spin and launch a little bit lower. So again, low launch, and this is a low spin shaft option. So this is a 6.0, as I mentioned. Oh, nice. And this, to me, doesn't feel as stiff as the white. The white felt a little bit more stiff from the handle, a little bit harder, a bit more boardier feel. This feels a little bit sort of smoother, a bit more feedback through it in my feels anyway. That's a good strike. That's a nice strike. Still quite a high ball flight there, to be honest. Launched at 12, 2800. Not too bad though. Interesting feel between those last two shafts, you know, the Tensai white and then the Titan. As I mentioned, this Titan is definitely a little bit more sort of softer, a little bit more smoother in that transition, where the white felt a lot more stiffer as a feel. And again, there is some weight brackets. So I mean, that 60 gram bracket, there's a 70 gram, and then there's also an 80 gram if you prefer that heavier feel. Again, so loads and loads of options in all these stock shafts. Okay, that is definitely just spinning up a little bit more. Yeah, 3,100, just sort of see that a little bit, touching the heel. Okay, so we're gonna hit one more with a Titan, then we're gonna look at the numbers and compare those four shafts together. Okay, so there we go. Let's go and check a few numbers and compare those four shafts. So now we can see the averages against those four shafts on this table here. So we can see the red was definitely the highest spinning of the four options. We then reduced it to 2,900, 2,900, 2,800. So very subtle on the spin, really. Again, pinch of salt, where in the face you're going to strike it. These are the averages on those 5 shots I hit with each of those sort of shafts. You can see the flight came down a little bit more. Again, the red was the highest in terms of the launch and the spin. Obviously got to peak out a lot higher. Descent angle is going to be a little bit steeper, losing a bit of distance for me personally. Again, if you're a slower swing speed player, that is going to help you potentially keep that ball in the air a little bit longer to maximise your carry distance. And maybe the best numbers for me there is probably somewhere between that blue and the white, actually, in the Tensai, because that sort of got me carry at 270. Decent sort of land angle there, nice sort of flight on it. And surprisingly, the Titan, I thought that would perform the best for me, to be honest, out of those options. But it was a little bit more spinnier on some of the shots. Again, the strike's always going to change it. My ball speed, you can see, wasn't quite as quick with that. Okay, so I think for you guys, when you're looking at shafts, it can be quite confusing. There are a lot of options. So again, as I mentioned before, try and get in with a good fitter on a TrackMan, measure it, compare the numbers and tie it into your delivery, your patterns of your strike. Obviously, we've got adjustability in the head and the neck sleeve, length of shaft. We've got different weights, different flexes, different grips can make a difference as well. So really helping you get that club dialed in to maximize not only your accuracy, but also your distance. Post comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on that particular video with those shafts. It's always an interesting one for me. And hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.